8 months ago, my life turned upside down in ways I never could have anticipated. My husband, Aaron, and I had discovered we were expecting, a moment that felt like the beginning of a beautiful new chapter. The news filled our home with excitement, and in just a matter of days, we began to imagine all the possibilities our baby would bring into our lives. We spent late nights discussing names, the nursery, and what kind of parents we hoped to be. There was an endless array of dreams to hold on to, and I held them so close, they felt like reality. Aaron, ever supportive and gentle, would surprise me with new ideas about the nursery, even going as far as picking out a light, calming color for the walls. I could see the joy in his eyes, a warmth that only a father-to-be could show. We picked up stacks of parenting books, and each page felt like it was preparing us for a journey we were so ready to take together. Little did we know that the dreams we were building were about to come crashing down. One night, I woke up with a terrible sense of dread. I couldn't pinpoint why I felt so afraid. There wasn't any specific reason. But as I reached down, I felt something wet, and when I saw the blood, I knew immediately that something was wrong. I began to cry out, and Aaron came rushing into the room, barely even awake yet, trying to figure out what was happening. Without hesitation, he helped me into the car, and we sped to the hospital. There was a part of me that clung to hope, but deep down, I could sense the worst. The doctor confirmed what I feared most. We had lost the baby. In that instant, our world turned dark, and everything felt empty. I remember feeling numb, unable to process the reality of what had happened. It felt like all the air had been taken out of the room, leaving me stranded in an endless void. The days that followed were filled with despair. I barely ate, didn't sleep, and felt hollow inside. All the plans, dreams, and hopes we had for our little one had vanished in a heartbeat. The days following the loss blurred into one long, painful memory. Aaron was my rock. He held me together when I couldn't even lift my head off the pillow. He'd bring me tea, encourage me to eat, and gently remind me that life could still hold meaning. He was grieving too, though he rarely showed it. He was too busy being strong for me. For those 2 weeks, my family rallied around me, offering support in ways I hadn't expected. My parents came by daily, and my sister Maggie texted or called me each evening, offering words of comfort. It meant the world, but my grief made it hard to accept anyone's help fully. I felt alone in a way that was impossible to articulate. As time passed, I slowly found ways to cope, but I knew I'd never be the same. I decided to return to work, hoping the routine would provide an anchor. It helped, but my heart remained heavy. I joined a support group online for parents who'd experienced loss, and I found comfort reading the stories of others who shared my pain. Knowing I wasn't alone helped me find some peace, and I began to accept that some things were simply out of my control. But the healing process was gradual. Each step forward felt fragile, and the slightest reminder could bring back the overwhelming weight of my loss. Then, 2 months ago, Maggie shared her news with the family. She was expecting. I found out from one of my cousins instead of Maggie herself. It was surprising, especially because Maggie had been one of my main sources of support after my miscarriage. We'd always been close, sharing both big and small life events, and her silence on such a personal matter felt strange and hurtful. Still, I tried to understand her reasons. I thought maybe she worried it would upset me or bring back painful memories. So, I decided to let it go, convincing myself it wasn't worth making an issue of. Later, when I spoke to Maggie, she admitted she hadn't told me because she didn't want to upset me. She'd worried I might not be ready to hear about her pregnancy, given my own loss. I appreciated her consideration, but I reassured her that, despite everything, I was happy for her. I told her I wanted to be part of her journey and support her however I could. This moment felt like a turning point. I wanted her to know that her happiness didn't lessen my grief or change my feelings about the loss of my own child. My pain wouldn't prevent me from being the sister and aunt I wanted to be. As the weeks went by, I put my energy into supporting Maggie, especially as she was dealing with her pregnancy largely on her own. Her marriage with Tyler was ending, a shock to everyone who knew them. They had always seemed so well-suited, and Tyler had been a loyal husband. The reason for their separation was vague. Maggie only mentioned irreconcilable differences, leaving the rest of us guessing. Knowing she was navigating both a pregnancy and a divorce, I offered to attend her doctor appointments and be a source of comfort whenever she needed it. Our family rallied around her, and I did everything I could to ensure she felt loved and supported. Then came the baby shower. Maggie's shower was held at Tyler's new home, where he'd moved after their separation. He'd offered his space for the event, and Maggie thought it was perfect for a small gathering. I arrived early to help set up, as did some of our family members. My cousins and other guests, knowing about my recent loss, approached me with quiet words of sympathy and gentle hugs. Their kindness was comforting, but I could feel Maggie's eyes on me from across the room, watching as people came over to check on me. Her expression grew darker with each exchange, a tension building that I hadn't anticipated. Later, when I was helping Maggie clean up, she made a comment that shook me to my core. She laughed, a cold, strange laugh, and remarked that I was always stealing the spotlight, even at her baby shower. I was stunned, not sure I'd heard her correctly. I asked her what she meant, and she went on to say that ever since my miscarriage, people seemed more concerned about me than about her. She joked, half-heartedly, that maybe I'd steal the attention at the shower, too. Her words cut deep, but I tried to stay calm. I reassured her that no one was trying to overshadow her special day, least of all me. I wanted her to feel celebrated, cherished, and loved. Despite her comment, I went out of my way to keep the focus on her, intentionally staying in the background as much as I could. When the time came for gifts, I brought mine forward, a set of motherhood books that had helped me immensely, along with a baby shawl I'd bought on a trip when I first found out I was pregnant. It was a small gesture, something I hoped would show my love and excitement for her baby. But when Maggie opened the shawl, her reaction was the last thing I expected. She looked at it with disgust, then accused me of bringing it to her shower to curse her baby. Her words were cold, accusatory. Stunned, I tried to explain that I had given it to her with love, hoping it would mean something special to her. But Maggie didn't relent, going so far as to accuse me of being selfish, of thinking only of myself. I was speechless, humiliated in front of our family and friends. Erin stepped in to defend me, telling Maggie that her reaction was uncalled for and that I had only been trying to show my love. But the damage was done. Maggie's words left me feeling broken, questioning whether I had made the wrong choice in sharing something so personal. Later, as the shower continued, I kept my distance, feeling like a stranger in the very place I'd come to support my sister. I did my best to avoid Maggie, not wanting to stir up any more tension. But then, in the middle of the party, something unexpected happened. Maggie started coughing, her face growing red and panicked. We all rushed to her side as she struggled for air, and someone quickly called an ambulance. As she was taken to the hospital, I felt a pang of guilt, wondering if there was anything I could have done differently to prevent this chaos. At the hospital, the doctors confirmed that Maggie had experienced a severe allergic reaction. My mind raced, trying to piece together how it had happened. I knew she was allergic to shrimp, and I had been careful to avoid any foods that could harm her. I'd made sure the plate I brought her only had chicken and mashed potatoes, nothing that should have caused her any harm. But when Maggie woke up, her first words were an accusation. She claimed that I had poisoned her food, that I had tried to hurt her because I was jealous of her pregnancy. Her words were a knife to the heart. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, but as I looked around the room, I could see the doubt and confusion on the faces of my family. My parents, who had been so supportive before, seemed to hesitate, and I could feel the weight of their judgment pressing down on me. I tried to defend myself, explaining that I had done nothing wrong, but Maggie wouldn't listen. She continued to accuse me, claiming that I had acted out of jealousy and spite. My parents took her side, asking me to leave the room. It was as though everything I had done to support Maggie meant nothing, overshadowed by her anger and mistrust. Back home, the days that followed were filled with silence and shame. I felt abandoned, betrayed by the very people who were supposed to stand by me. My parents asked me to apologize to Maggie, but I couldn't bring myself to say sorry for something I hadn't done. I knew the truth, and I wasn't about to let Maggie's anger dictate my actions. Then, Tyler reached out, suggesting that we all meet to clear the air. Erin and I agreed, hoping this would be a chance to finally set things straight. At the meeting, Maggie began once again to accuse me, demanding that I admit to poisoning her food. But Tyler interrupted her, revealing something none of us expected. He had security footage of the party, capturing everything that had happened that day. We all watched as the video played, showing each moment in painstaking detail. The footage showed me preparing Maggie's plate carefully, ensuring that no shrimp or allergens were anywhere near her food. It showed Maggie, at one point, taking a dip of sauce from a cousin's plate, a plate that had shrimp on it. The truth was undeniable. Maggie's reaction had been a mistake of her own making. As the video ended, I looked over at my parents, waiting to see their reaction. Their faces were pale, filled with regret. I hoped they would apologize, acknowledge the pain they had caused by believing Maggie's accusations. But instead, my mother tried to downplay the whole thing, brushing it off as a misunderstanding. She refused to clear my name with the rest of the family, insisting that no one else needed to know the details. Heartbroken, I realized that, despite everything, my family wasn't willing to stand up for me. They wanted to sweep the whole thing under the rug, leaving me to bear the weight of their doubt. Aaron and I left the meeting, taking a copy of the video with us, and I knew then that I couldn't trust my family in the way I once had. The following days were filled with reflection, and I decided to take matters into my own hands. I posted the video online, sharing my story and letting the truth speak for itself. Family members who had sided with Maggie began reaching out, apologizing for their judgment and asking for forgiveness. My parents called repeatedly, but I ignored their calls, feeling a sense of peace that I hadn't felt in months. In the end, I decided to cut contact with Maggie and limit my relationship with my parents. Tyler and Aaron became my only allies, and I found comfort in knowing that the people who truly mattered knew the truth. It was a painful journey, but I emerged from it stronger, finally free from the weight of my family's doubt. The pain of my loss will always be there, a quiet ache that never quite goes away. But now, as I look toward the future, I know that I don't have to carry that burden alone. I have Aaron, I have friends, and I have my own resilience to lean on. And as for Maggie, I hope that one day she finds peace within herself. But until then, I'm learning to live my life on my own terms, free from the shadows of others' expectations and judgments.